that date. Then a new therapist started a while later, and then they started having to work sitting in a chair later. Okay, so I kind of explained what with this first one. Yeah, the first time that they first started, right? Those aggressive behaviors just shot up super, super high, and then they kind of fell off. So, what do you guys think that this one right here, B, correlates with? Probably the new therapist. So what do you notice between the relationship between like A and B?
New people.
Yeah, it's a lot less severe. So this is not like an exceptional circumstance, I don't think. This is like the first time you have an extinction burst, it's going to be the most severe. That has like the most severe rise and the most severe fall off until here where it's actually at like 1. It's kind of hard to see on here. Like 1 physical aggression in 1 day. Like for that kid, that's a really big accomplishment. So, but when this new therapist started, it's the same reason as this, right? New person, new expectations, but it doesn't go up quite as much. So what do you guys notice about, what else about B? Maybe not in relation to A, but just B itself.
The verbal aggression also went down at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that to 0? Sorry?
Yeah. This verbal aggression line I think is really interesting. So, keeping that in mind, that went down. We'll come back to that in a second. But what do you think about C?
Started using children.
Yeah? Yeah. So, what does this red line represent?
Replacement behavior?
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to start throwing, this does correlate with the new use of chairs, and the aggressions towards the objects went up. So instead of hitting people, he's hitting objects or kicking objects, right? So that's really interesting that you can actually see this in the data that he started hitting not people as a replacement behavior, and the advent of the chairs and tables being implemented or an object, and so he's kind of having an extinction burst because of that. So these two are correlated, it's the same. There was a break. So this is still chairs. But so it kind of transferred back to kind of like what the typical, expression of behavior was. Does that make sense? So, but this is also really interesting. What do you guys think? What do you guys think verbal aggression, what's happening with verbal aggressions over the course of this kid's treatment?
It's getting more frequent.
Yeah.
So it's the replacement behavior?
Yeah. So when those outwardly aggressive behaviors are up, these verbal aggressions are lower, and it seems like they're probably switching places now. They kind of cross, right? So while a verbal aggression, for this kid, verbal aggressions are things like, I'm going to cut all your hair off, like kind of funny things like that. So, but that is definitely a lot more socially acceptable than like slapping someone across the face, right? So this is kind of like a work in progress. Like I would rather see these higher and these lower. Does that make sense? But you can definitely see like how this extinction burst, it's very cyclical. It can happen, you're going to get an extinction burst over different things. Does that make sense?
I have a question. Do
Yeah.
you sometimes like teach them almost like here's their big, huge behavior, you teach them kind of like stepping stones to get down to no behavior? Like for example, like if they're hitting and kicking a lot, you might teach them, let's hit and kick this instead, and then you teach them don't kick and stop.
Right.
Or like when a girl that's screaming, maybe you would teach her do some other noise that's more not as horrible, and then
Right.
kind of work through things.
Yeah, definitely. So, and like with aggressions, we definitely will sometimes provide kids with like an area, call it like our break area, where like there's like beanbags and stuff, and if you want to scream, that's fine. Scream into that beanbag, scream into that pillow, punch that pillow, kick that pillow. Like, that's fine. And, you know, we're still going to count that as an aggression towards an object, and we're still going to track that, but that is a lot better socially than doing that towards a person. And maybe saying, and, you know, we're all entitled to our own emotions. Like, I get mad, I get sad, I get really frustrated, so I don't ever expect that a little kid is going to be able to control their emotions all the time. So if they are just like, I'm so mad at you and I hate you, like, fine. That's, like, I am so glad that you used your words and said that rather than, like, kicking me to let me know the same thing. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to think about it in that process of growing towards that ultimate goal, which would be, you know, being able to, you know, regulate your own emotions a little bit better and being able to control your body better. And still, you can have your emotions, but being able to deal with them in a socially acceptable way. And this kind of shows that progression through that, where it was, at first, it's, you know, physical aggressions to people, and then to objects, and now those verbal aggressions are kind of on the rise. And then maybe we'll see another extinction burst with this, and then it'll drop off again, and that aggressive behavior will stabilize. Does that make sense? Do you guys think this is, like, really interesting? I think this is really interesting.
Can it too, like, sometimes be the extinction burst because it's like they're testing?
Yeah.
You know, like, they're trying to see where the limit is, and so they're trying to, like, get worse and worse to see if they can, you know, I guess depends on the function, but, like, if they're trying to get attention from it, then, oh, hitting you gets worse, so now I'm gonna, you know, hit you harder
or more often.
More or whatever, and then it gets worse until they're like, oh, it's not gonna work at all. Then I'll stop.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that, like, thinking about an elevator is helpful to kind of explain an extinction burst and kind of what you're talking about too. So, how many of you guys ever been stuck in an elevator before? No, I haven't either. But, okay, hypothetically, let's say that we're all stuck in an elevator together. Maybe it's the elevator in this building and we've ridden the elevator 500 times, right? Every time we go in the elevator, we push the button on what floor we want to go to, and the elevator takes us there and the door opens and it's very uneventful, right? That's status quo, that's our routine, that's what the elevator does. So what would happen one day if you push the button, the elevator doors open, you go into the elevator, the door's shut, you push the button and nothing's happened? What are you gonna do? Oh my gosh, you're gonna start pushing those buttons like crazy, right? I mean, you were like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this elevator, I'm totally freaking out, right? Yeah, I mean,
try to rip open the doors.
Yeah, so maybe at first, you touch the button, you're waiting, you're like, all right, nothing's happening, so maybe you touch it again. Maybe you're getting a little bit more frantic, right? Then maybe you were like punching the buttons, you're trying to pull the doors open, you're pulling that alarm button, you're pulling out your cell phone, you don't have service, you're freaking out, you're trying to get service. I mean, you're gonna try everything in your power to get out of the darn elevator, right? So what if, as soon as you stopped freaking out, the elevator door opened? Right? I mean, that's the extinction burst. So like, what's gonna happen, you calm down, you stop freaking out, the elevator door opens, right? You get out, cool. So next time you come to Kids on the Move, you push the button, you get into the elevator, the door closes, you push the button, and the elevator doesn't move. I mean, what are you gonna do the second time?
On how fast it is.
It's gonna depend on how fast, that's so true. Maybe you're gonna push the button again, maybe you're gonna kind of start having like a mini freak out, maybe probably not as severe as the last time. And then maybe you're gonna remember, oh, when I just calmed down, the door opened, right? And eventually, like, it falls off totally, you know, it goes down so far that you get in the elevator, you push the button, you're expecting it, then you just don't freak out, and then the door opens, and you're like, all right, well, glad we did that, you know, and then eventually it's like, why are you going to take the elevator, right? Elevator doesn't work. the elevator's always worked before, but the elevator doesn't work now. So why are you going to take the elevator anymore if you've learned so many times that the elevator is not going to do what you want it to do and what it used to do for you, right? So you can kind of think about this like this analogy of the elevator, like if so like for instance, if you are putting an aggressive behavior on extinction, right? Like the chart was showing for that one child. So if usually those aggressions were completely for attention, we'll say. If you just completely disengage your attention, I mean, what do you think is going to happen at first? Yeah, they are going to ramp it up. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And they are doing that because this elevator has always worked this way before. My whole 5 years of life, whenever I hit you, I get attention, and now I'm not getting attention. So I'm going to hit you harder, I'm going to hit you more often, I'm going to hit, it's going to be way more intense, and then I'll get your attention. And if that doesn't work, they're going to try even more, and they're going to try even more, and they're going to try even more, until they realize that no matter how hard they try, that it's not going to work, that they are not going to get attention for hitting you anymore, right? So when that behavior occurs, when that extinction burst happens, that huge spike, what do you think would happen if you're just like, all right, this is too hard, I can't do it?
Well, it's like if they they hit you, you hit more, you're ready for that. And then all of a sudden they do a swift kick at your face, whatever, you might react, and then it just, I don't think it's been nothing. You know what I mean? Like you just got battery first because you're like, I gave them that attention. And
yeah. So something else, like if this chart was reversed, like say it was just completely backwards, that would tell me that like this person did really, really good staying neutral, not reinforcing that attention-seeking aggression, and then that swift kick to the face happened and it fell off, right? So then it got reinforced. So next time it's going to go up a little bit further, because that time they're like, well, if I just kick her twice, or if I have, if I hit her just a little bit harder, or if I go for just a little bit longer, then it'll work. And you're really, really calm, really, really calm, really, really calm, and then you're not. Bam. Right? Then they're reinforced again. So eventually, you will get up here. Your kid will escalate that over and over and over again because they know they just need to do a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Oh, I can have a tantrum for 10 more minutes. I can do that. That's fine. Then the next time I can do it for 25 more minutes. That's not a big deal. So you really got to think about that, and you really got to commit, because later, if you just give up and you're just like, all right, this is too hard, this extinction burst is way too heavy, I can't deal, which is fine. But the next time you try to put that behavior on extinction again, you're going to have to climb a lot higher. That extinction burst is going to be way worse the next time before it falls off. And way worse every subsequent time until you finally get that behavior to go extinct. But being consistent is so, so, so important, and really committing so that this doesn't get worse for you in the long run. Does that make sense?
Hold out longer than they do.
Yeah, definitely.
There's sometimes where I really I have to win you at this because you can't learn that this works, but it's so hard.
It is so hard. Power struggles, I think, can be so frustrating. And my personal philosophy is I don't want to get in a power struggle. I'm going to do everything I can to prevent that power struggle. But if you engage me in a power struggle and there's no way for me to redirect that, there's no way for me to get around it, okay, I'm here. We're
Then you have this.
Yeah, basically. It's like I'm a grown up, I need you to know that I'm in charge. I'm gonna have the staying power, I'm gonna have the fortitude, and I'll hang out and get through this with you. So it can be hard. But definitely really committing to that and knowing your plan and knowing everything that you need to do at first is so, so, so important, so that you can have the chart go this way instead of the other direction. that make sense? Okay. That's all I have.